is the continuation of last week's Inktober video, and this one includes a few drawings from week 2. So just for context, in case you missed the first video, I'm working with ballpoint pen. My theme, or rather my title for the zine that I'm working on, is Inside the Witch's Workshop, and I'm not following the official prompt list, but I've kind of made my own list of objects and themes that I would like to explore within my title, and I'm kind of referencing that every day. If you want like a more in-depth explanation, I'll link the first video that I made in the cards and in the description so you can check it out. Today I actually wanted to talk about something that someone requested in the comments, which is to give some advice for people who want to get started using this medium. But before we get into that, I do want to mention a couple of things. So first of all, these are drawings from week 2 of Inktober. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that I didn't draw as much this week as I did last week, because I realized at the end of the first week that I was quite a few pages ahead because I'd miscalculated how many I would have to do daily. So because my zine is 40 pages, I obviously have to do more than 1 page a day to be able to do the 40 pages within 31 days. But I somehow just started working in spreads, and so I was doing a spread a day, and so then I was ahead. But it worked out quite well because I was in uni all day Monday through Wednesday this week, and so I was able to take a couple of days off because I was ahead from the previous week. So that all just kind of worked out, but it's why there's probably not as many drawings in this video, and also there's a spread that kind of just appears in the middle of the video because I didn't film it because I was at my parents' for the weekend, but you know, there's that. I just wanted to mention it to give you a bit of context. And 2, I wanted to mention that the pre-order for the zine will go up on Friday. I will post about it on Instagram and the community thing here on YouTube so I can remind people, but I wanted to let you know in the video as well, obviously, and I'll share more details about when things are going to be shipped and ordered and all of that once we get closer to the end. But the plan is I wanted to basically open pre-orders quite early so I can have them open for a couple of weeks, and then I'll close pre-orders the first week of November, so like I think it's on the 5th of November or something like that, and ideally order everything at the end of that week, so hopefully I can receive the zines the week after and start shipping everything around mid-November. That's kind of the plan. Here's hoping. There will also be a digital version available because I know the shipping can get quite expensive, but the zine will ship internationally, and I don't know if I'm going to get back into making physical products regularly, but this is going to be a physical product as well. And also I wanted to mention that pre-orders will come with a few extras. So I'm going to make a small sticker sheet, so like a sticker sheet with more stickers, basically. I'll share more photos about it to explain what I mean. And ideally a print to go with it. And also I'm going to like be designing all of the packaging to go with it, because I feel like none of my old like packaging and thank you cards really match the theme of this, and also I'm kind of out of everything, so I'd have to order new things anyways. And also the zines will still be in the shop after the pre-order is closed, especially because I can't order like a set amount. Like I can't order 13 books. I have to order like either 10 or 25 or 50, kind of like that. And so anything that is like extra from the pre-order is going to still be available on the shop after the pre-order is closed, but these are not going to come with the extras. So that's kind of everything there is to know so far about the pre-order. If you're curious to see more details about like me working on the extra things and like behind the scenes of Inktober and stuff, you can see most of that in my other weekly videos, like the regular sort of vlogs that I do. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Getting on today's topic, I wanted to talk a bit about how I'm using biro or like ballpoint pen for this project. And someone asked recently in some of the comments for advice for people who want to get started with it, and I have some tips to share. I will say I think it's important to kind of differentiate between ink in general and like all of the subcategories that come with it, or like the different types of tools to use ink, because obviously you're going to be able to achieve very different results with ballpoint pen compared to liquid ink or fine liners, and there's going to be different ways that you can shade with each medium, and I think experimentation with whatever medium that you're using is the most important thing to kind of get familiar with it. But in general, I have a few tips that kind of apply to everything, and then a few that are, I guess, a bit more specific to ballpoint pen. I don't have a lot of experience with ink in general, especially liquid ink. I think I used it for a bit when I first started drawing in general, but it never really resonated with me. However, I do have a bit of experience with fine liners. I did Inktober 2018 with fine liners, with like the Zine Faber-Castell Pet Artist pens, and I really, really like them. But it's quite different from ballpoint pen, and obviously the drawings that I'm doing are very different, because of the medium as well, not only because my art style has changed and like my interests have changed. But in general, I would say the most important thing for me is to test out the tool first, and like try to figure out how you can achieve different line variations. So with ballpoint pen specifically, you can really play around both with the thickness of the line, the opacity, and like the neatness of it. I think like depending on what angle you hold the pen at and how hard you're pressing on the paper, you can really achieve like something similar to what you would be able to do with a pencil. So obviously if you're holding it straight up, you just get a very crisp straight line. But if you're holding it at an angle, you can sort of get that pencil shading effect with ballpoint pen as well if you're like pressing it on the paper lightly enough. And it's something that I've been using a lot within these drawings. I think this helps create a lot of texture, and it's something that I personally really enjoy. And it's generally good to know what your medium can do before you you go straight in with a big drawing or something. And obviously the type of line that you decide to use will really help define the look of your drawing as well, because it's going to affect the feel of your piece, like whether it's going to be like soft and light and airy or quite bold and intense. And so that's definitely one thing that you need to do like as soon as you decide that you want to start with this kind of medium. And also try different movements with your pen, like especially for shading. It's quite hard to get like a solid black piece, like a solid black area when you're shading with ballpoint pen. I think it's a lot easier with other types of ink, but with fine liners as well, like it's a bit of a gray area, because with certain fine liners you might be able to, but then there are some that if you kind of go over it multiple times, the color gets darker or it changes, and so again it's kind of difficult to get like a solid color area. And so I think it's cool to try to move your pen in different ways and not just shade with straight lines. Majority of what I do for shading within these drawings is just scribbles and like move my pen randomly, and I think that really helps create texture within the shadows and therefore make the drawing more interesting. But also there are different ways to do it. Like if you hold the pen at an angle, the way that I was talking about before, and you kind of layer that, again, that creates a different texture as well. And if you move it in circles or I don't know, if you move it in lines or like parallel lines, or if you pick up your pen or if you don't, it really changes the kind of shading that you can get with it, which is why I really encourage experimentation, especially at the beginning. And this is something that I always talk about when it comes to starting any new medium. Something that I really like to do when starting a new medium, and I always kind of do this, is do some sort of like 5 or 10 day drawing challenge type thing. Like normally I'll make something like a 10 or 15 page sketchbook for myself and try to fill that up, and in a lot of different ways, and it's something that I also do when I want to like refresh myself on a medium that I haven't used in a while. Last year around Christmas I made, I can't remember how many it was, but it was maybe like 15 or 16 pages, like a little watercolor paper sketchbook, and I use watercolor. and I was doing a couple of spreads a day for a week or so, and it really helped refresh my like skills when it comes to watercolor, because I like a lot of mediums, and I've tried a lot of mediums, and it's like important to kind of maintain the skill as well, not only when you're really into it, but also when you're maybe using something else, and that's something that I also suggest doing when you first start using a new medium. I think it's something that really helps me personally get familiar with the medium that I'm working with, and it makes me get over that initial fear and like anxiety around not knowing what I'm working with and how my medium is going to react to what movements I do and how much pressure I put and all of that. So I just think it's very, very helpful. I try to not be precious at all about this. Like, this is really all just about experimenting, and I think I don't really have an issue with like perfectionism within my sketchbook, but I know a lot of people do, and I certainly used to. But I think doing this kind of thing in like a separate small book really helps, on like just a set of like loose paper. It really helps because it's just, no one ever has to see that. It's not in your sketchbook if you do want to keep your sketchbook looking like pristine and neat. It's literally, it just needs to be a space for experimentation and for you to make mistakes and for you to learn from those mistakes. So that's something that I think is quite important. And then like the main thing about ink is that you can't erase it. Like, I know you can't erase paint either, but ink is, from my experience at least, is generally more difficult to cover up than say like gouache, especially compared to pencil. If you're using ink in a way that is more similar to what you would do with a pencil as well, which I am in these drawings, for example. If you're using it in a more painterly way, I don't have a lot of experience with that, and I can maybe try to link some videos about it. I think Miriam Tilson has done a couple of really good videos about her Inktober style as well, so I'll try to link those below. I haven't really watched those in a while, but maybe I should to refresh my mind on those tips as well. But generally, the cool thing about ink is that you can't really erase it, and you can like use white ink to cover up mistakes, but generally I think it's nice to embrace the nature of whatever medium that you're using. With that being said, for example, for these drawings, I have been starting with a pencil sketch. Some are more detailed than others, depending on what I'm drawing and how familiar I am with the subject and how complex it is. But I find it helpful to at least have a pencil base when it comes to proportions, because if I were working in my sketchbook, I would do all of this with ink, like with pen. I don't really like mind the loose like sketching and blocking off of proportions showing up, but because I want to turn this into a zine and I want it to look like nice and neat, and it's very inspired by like old botanical illustrations and old journals, I do want it to look neat, and therefore I'm starting with pencil. But I've definitely done, there was a period where I was using pen a lot to sketch, and I definitely think that I should get back into it because it makes you a lot more confident with your lines when you're used to working with pen. I don't know necessarily that I would recommend it as like a medium to learn drawing with, but because it probably has like a steeper learning curve than drawing with pencil does. But I think if you do learn to use pen, whether early on in your drawing journey or later on even, it does make you more confident in your lines and more bold, and I quite like that. And then you can sort of apply the same concepts to pencil drawing as well. Obviously, outside of the technicality of like the medium itself, if you are already used to drawing with pencil, the drawing skills are going to transfer over. Like, that doesn't really change. But even then, you know, doing the pencil drawing, what I do is I start with another pen, like a very loose pen outline on top of my pencil outline, and then I kind of strengthen it and shade it after to make sure that everything is in the right place, because I can't erase it, and I'm very aware of that in my mind, which I maybe wouldn't be if I was working with pencil, for example. But I do quite think it's quite nice that you can still play with like the intensity of your lines, and if I do a very light line and then it's not in the right place, it's very easy to cover up with like darker lines and shading in other places, if it makes some kind of sense. So that's kind of how I've been approaching them. I do, however, think pen is a really, really good drawing medium. And as I said, I think I was watching a video a while back about, I think it was a video from Jacqueline De Leon, I think that's how you pronounce her name. I'll leave her handle, like her channel, linked below as well. She sketches a lot, or at least she used to sketch a lot with pen. And I think watching people use a medium when you're not familiar with it can really help you learn how to approach it, and it's something that I personally find really helpful. So I was watching those videos before starting Inktober to kind of try to figure out how other artists that I like use this same medium that I'm using now, and I just found it really fascinating how she did that, and she was doing like these really quick sketches and poses and that kind of thing, and it's really cool because where like with pencil you would maybe do a drawing and then kind of start erasing and changing the things that you don't like. With pen, you just sort of draw the thing over. And therefore, I think you probably get a lot more practice in as well, which I thought was quite interesting. So I guess it also like really depends on what kind of drawing you're looking to make. But I think my biggest tip when it comes to learning a new medium for any kind of medium really is to just experiment and get familiar with the medium and don't have a high expectations for it straight from the beginning. If you already have drawing skills, like if you're already used to drawing and you're like an experienced artist, it's like those are going to transfer over obviously, but it is still going to take a while to get used to the feeling of a new medium and to figure out how that is going to react to what you do and how like what you like with it and what you don't. And for example, something that I've never really had issues with pencil, but I am having issues with ink right now, is trying to make my pieces balanced in terms of light, and my spreads balanced as well. I feel like when I start shading, I either make everything really dark or keep everything really light, and it's been a bit of a struggle to find that balance. So I'm kind of trying to achieve that contrast through both light and dark, and also through the way that I texture my shadows, and it's been really interesting to learn. Like, I'm not the most familiar with ballpoint pen either, and so this project has really been interesting for me personally to learn how to use that as well. I have a bit of experience, but there are a lot of things that I've never quite thought about, and I think as I'm going forward, I'm kind of learning what I like and what I don't, and what kind of movements create what kind of textures, and where I can use those within a piece in a way that it makes sense, and how I can create shadows that are really soft and how I can create shadows that are quite harsh, and again how and when to use those, when, you know, trying to figure out when I prefer a harsh outline compared to when I don't. And I sometimes, like, a drawing looks quite flat because everything is sort of like a mid-tone, and I feel like I'm starting to learn what areas I then have to go back and deepen the shadows in to make it feel more balanced. So that's kind of really all I have to say, to be honest. I'm not like the most experienced when it comes to it, but I do have a lot of experience when it comes to starting new mediums, and I think things like Inktober are a really good way to get familiar with a new medium, because you get a lot of time with it. You get to spend a lot of time with it, and you get to try it in a lot of different situations ideally, and therefore learn a lot about the different ways that you can potentially use it. And I think once you know that and once you're familiar with it, it's a lot easier to then be able to apply it to whatever kind of drawing that you want to make. So I hope this was somewhat helpful. I feel like I've just rambled about nonsense for like 20 minutes, but they're all things that I do genuinely like think and like apply to what I do. I just hope they make sense like within your drawing practice as well. And with that being said, I think we're nearing the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this week's spreads. I am very, very excited to continue working on this project. We're just a little bit over halfway through. It feels like it's been going on forever, and we have like just a couple of days until the end. That's really not the case, but I'm still like just as excited as I was in the first, like on the first day, which I think is quite nice. But it's just, I think this is kind of given by the fact that I'm starting to see it all come together, and like come together as a bit of a story as well. And it's very satisfying. I've never done something like this, which is more sort of like an illustrated book, I guess, like a small booklet. But I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited to share it. I've received a lot of love about the idea of the zine, which I'm very, very grateful for. And I cannot wait to see the final printed zine, because again, never done that before. Super exciting. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have any questions on anything that I'm doing, anything like Inktober related that you would like me to talk about in next week's video, or like any behind the scenes specifically that you like me to film, I'd be happy to do that. And with that being said, I hope that you're well. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will wish you a very lovely week. Bye.